I hadn't heard my daughter's voice in 3 months. She said she couldn't come for Thanksgiving this year, said work was too much and travel was impossible. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But at 3:07 in the morning, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. A trembling voice on the other end whispered, "Sir, your daughter just asked for you." When the nurse said those words, "Your daughter just asked for you," I didn't know how to respond. I sat there on the edge of my bed, clutching the phone so hard my fingers ached. For a moment I couldn't speak. I just stared into the dark hallway outside my bedroom, listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. It felt wrong, unreal, like I was waking into a dream I didn't remember entering. What do you mean?" I finally whispered. The dryness in my throat made my voice crack. "My daughter, Emily?" "Yes, sir," the nurse said. "She arrived about 30 minutes ago. She asked for you specifically. She said, 'Please call my father.'" My heart dropped into my stomach. 30 minutes ago? At 3 in the morning? Emily wasn't supposed to be traveling. She made that very clear. She'd sounded tired when we last spoke. Distracted in a way that didn't match the cheerful tone. She tried to maintain. Something had been weighing on her, but every time I asked, she insisted she was fine. "Just work," she'd said. "Work. And life." I swallowed hard. Is she hurt?" The nurse hesitated. I could hear her breathing, the slight shuffle of papers in the background, the beep of a monitor somewhere behind her. "Sir, I think you should come in. We can go over everything when you arrive." That hesitation told me everything I feared, but didn't want to accept. Something was wrong. Something more than exhaustion or stress or a delayed Thanksgiving visit. I stood up and turned on the lamp. The sudden burst of light stung my eyes, but I forced myself to keep moving. Jacket, shoes, wallet, everything felt heavier than usual, like my body had doubled in weight. I walked down the hallway, glancing at the family photos on the wall. Emily at age 7, holding a pumpkin bigger than her torso. Emily at 17, smiling at her high school graduation. Emily at 24, moving to Seattle with that nervous but determined grin. Those pictures stayed frozen in time, but the voice on the phone, the nurse's voice, that felt like time had suddenly lurched forward and demanded I catch up. As I grabbed my keys from the counter, I whispered to myself, "She asked for me. She actually asked for me." The drive to the hospital was a blur, the kind that doesn't feel real until it's already over. The roads were empty, streetlights flickering softly across the windshield. I kept replaying the nurse's voice, the slight tremor of uncertainty when she said she'd explain everything when I arrived. I tried calling Emily's number twice during the drive. Both times it went straight to voicemail. It's Dad. I'm on my way. Just hang on. Okay?" When I pulled into the hospital parking lot, the air felt colder than it should have for late November. I walked through the sliding doors and approached the front desk. But before I could speak, a woman in blue scrubs stepped forward. "Mr. Callahan?" she asked gently. "Yes. I'm here for my daughter." The nurse who called me said. "I'm the one who called," she interrupted softly. "I'm Rebecca. I'll take you to her." She turned and started walking before I even had time to respond. Her pace was brisk, but not rushed. It was the kind of pace people use when they want to look calm, but are carrying something heavier beneath the surface. "Is she awake?" I asked. Rebecca hesitated again. Twice in one call, now again in person. That hesitation made my chest tighten. "She's been in and out," she said. "She did ask for you, though." Very clearly. "What happened?" "We'll go over everything," she said. "I promise. We need to get to her room first." We stopped outside room 214. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. No voices. No laughter from night shift nurses. No distant rolling carts. It was like the whole floor was holding its breath. Rebecca opened the door slowly. There she was, my daughter. But not the way I remembered her. Emily lay in the hospital bed, her skin pale, and her lips slightly cracked. Her hair was tied back in a messy, loose bun. There were faint bruises along her left arm, near the IV line. Her breathing was slow and uneven, like each inhale came with effort. "Emily?" I whispered. Her eyes fluttered, but she didn't open them fully. "Dad?" I stepped closer, feeling my throat tighten. "I'm here, sweetheart." She moved her hand weakly, and I took it in mine. Her skin was cold. "Too cold. What happened to you?" I asked. She swallowed, her throat moving slowly. I didn't want to worry you." "That's not an answer, Emily." Her breathing hitched. For a moment I thought she might start crying, but she didn't. She just squeezed my hand with whatever strength she had. "I should have told you," she whispered. "I should have, weeks ago." "Told me what?" She opened her eyes just enough to meet mine. "He found me." Everything in me froze. "Who?" I asked quietly. Emily looked toward Rebecca, who stepped closer to the bed. "Sir," Rebecca said, "your daughter has been under a great deal of stress. She came in dehydrated, exhausted, and in shock. She arrived alone. No wallet, no bag, just her phone, completely dead." Emily's hand trembled against mine. "I had to leave," she whispered. "I didn't have time to grab anything." "Emily," I said softly, "who found you?" She blinked slowly, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. "Dad, I didn't tell you because I didn't want you getting involved. You always try to fix everything. And this, you can't fix this." I leaned in closer. "Tell me what happened." She took a shallow breath. "He came to my work." "Who?" "My ex," she whispered. "Nathan." I felt my jaw clench. I hadn't heard that name in years. The last time I did, Emily was 26 and sobbing into my shoulder after moving back home for 2 months. Nathan was charming at first. Then he became controlling. Then unpredictable. Then frightening. "I thought he moved to Denver," I said. "So did I." Emily's voice cracked. "But he came back. And he wanted something from me." "What?" She didn't answer. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I shouldn't have come tonight. I shouldn't have dragged you into this." Before I could respond, Rebecca stepped forward. "Sir, we need to run a few more tests. It's best if you wait in the hallway for a moment." "I'm not leaving her. It's just for a few minutes," she said gently. "Let us stabilize her." Emily looked at me again, forcing her eyes open. "Don't leave," she whispered. "I won't," I said. "I'll be right outside. I'll be right outside." As soon as I stepped into the hallway, Rebecca closed the door behind me. I heard the soft click of the lock, like a barrier forming between me and the one person I needed to protect. I leaned against the wall, rubbing my forehead, trying to slow the pounding in my chest. Then, down the hallway, a man turned the corner, tall, hooded. Moving quietly, he paused when he saw me. Just for a second, then he walked the other way. I had never seen him before. But something in the way he moved made every instinct in me scream. And when I reached for my phone to call the nurse, I realized something else. My phone wasn't in my pocket anymore. It was gone. For a moment I just stood there in the hallway, patting each pocket slowly, hoping I'd simply misplaced my phone. Jacket, shirt, back pocket. Nothing. My breathing went shallow. I checked again, faster this time, as if panic itself could conjure the phone back into existence. But it was gone. I stared down the empty corridor, where the hooded man had just disappeared. The fluorescent lights above flickered once. Just once, and the whole floor felt colder. "Sir, are you all right?" A nurse rounding the corner startled me. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with tired eyes and a warm but cautious expression. My phone, it's gone." My voice felt too loud for the quiet of the hallway. She blinked. "Gone?" "I had it in my pocket when I walked in. I called my daughter twice from the parking lot." It was right here. I tapped my chest. No, it's not. She frowned slightly. Let me check with the desk. Maybe you set it down when you signed in? I didn't sign anything, I said. Rebecca just brought me straight to my daughter. The nurse looked puzzled. Rebecca? Whose? Before she finished, the door to Emily's room opened, and Rebecca stepped out. She hadn't heard what we were saying, but she must have sensed the tension. Is everything okay out here? She asked. Her voice steady. My phone, I said. It's missing. Rebecca's eyes softened a little. You probably dropped it in the lobby. The night shift can check. Lost and found. No, I said sharply. It didn't fall out. A man was in the hallway, hooded. He saw me, turned around, and she raised a calming hand. Mr. Callahan, this floor is secure. No visitors are allowed after 11 p.m., unless they're immediate family, and even then they have to check in. That's what I'm trying to tell you, I said. He wasn't family, and he wasn't staff. The older nurse glanced at Rebecca with a confused expression. Rebecca kept her face neutral, but something flickered behind her eyes, concern maybe, or recognition. I wasn't sure. Before either of them could speak again, we heard a sharp beep from inside Emily's room, one of the monitors. Rebecca turned immediately. I need to take care of this, she said. Please stay right here. She slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The beep stopped almost at once. The older nurse touched my arm gently. Let's go to the desk. We'll look for your phone. I let her lead me down the corridor, but my mind stayed locked on the man I saw. The way he paused when he noticed me. The way he turned quickly as if he didn't want to be recognized or confronted. The night clerk at the reception desk looked half asleep, but perked up when the nurse asked about lost items. She checked drawers, shelves, even the counter behind her. No phone turned in, she said. But if someone finds it later, we'll call. I can't receive a call, I muttered. There's no phone to answer. She looked awkwardly sympathetic. Well, we can hold it for you if it shows up. I was barely listening. Something else was nagging at me now. Something small, but persistent. When I arrived earlier, how exactly had I entered the hospital? The sliding doors, the empty lobby, Rebecca appearing instantly, calling my name before I even approached the desk. How did she know who I was? How did she know what I looked like? The nurse, who'd called me, described my daughter's condition, but I didn't tell her what I looked like or what I would be wearing. Rebecca never asked me to identify myself. She never checked my ID, never verified my name. She just said, Mr. Callahan, and took me straight to Emily. Had she been expecting me? The thought unsettled me more than I wanted to admit. I thanked the older nurse, though I didn't remember what I said, and walked back toward Emily's room. The hallway felt even quieter now, the air heavier. When I reached her door, I hesitated before knocking. I heard voices inside. Two of them. Rebecca's, low and calm. And another. A man's. My chest tightened. I pressed my ear to the door, straining to make out the words, but their voices were too muffled. I took a step back, ready to push the door open, when the man's voice rose sharply. No, don't touch. Then silence. Cold, suffocating silence. I pushed the door open without knocking. Rebecca stood beside the bed, adjusting a monitor cable with practiced calm. Emily was awake now, but dazed, her eyes glossy, and beside her, on the opposite side of the bed, there was no man. The room was empty, except for the two of them. Rebecca looked up. Mr. Callahan? Is everything all right? I heard a man's voice, I said. Someone was in here. Rebecca blinked. There's been no one but me and your daughter in the room. That's not true, I said. I heard Emily interrupted me weakly. Dad, please, you're tired. No, I said firmly. Someone was in here. Rebecca folded her hands slowly. Emily had a moment of disorientation while we were adjusting her oxygen flow. You may have mistaken her voice. Patients sometimes say things unexpectedly when they wake. That wasn't her voice. Emily winced slightly. Dad, please, not now. I took a breath, trying to steady myself. Emily, earlier you mentioned Nathan. You said he found you. Her eyes closed, as if she lacked the strength to keep them open. I did. Emily, I said gently. Is he here? In the hospital? Her breathing thinned again. She didn't answer. Rebecca stepped between us slightly, as if shielding her. We're going to give her something to help her rest. Before I could protest, she touched the IV line. Wait, what are you giving her? A mild sedative, she said. She needs sleep. No, I said. I want to speak to her first. Rebecca paused, her finger resting lightly on the IV port. Emily whispered, barely audible, It's okay, Dad. I'm so tired. Her eyelids fluttered, and I felt something collapse inside me. The kind of collapse that comes when you realize you're losing control of something precious. Rebecca injected the dose slowly. Just rest, she whispered to Emily. You'll feel better soon. Within seconds, Emily's face relaxed, and her breathing steadied. She'll be asleep for a while, Rebecca said softly. I looked at her, really looked at her. The calmness, the careful choice of words, the steady hands. Why did you lock the door earlier? I asked. She didn't flinch. For privacy. It clicked, I said. I heard it. Yes, she replied calmly. We needed to focus. Medical procedure. And the man in the hallway? Security walks the floors. That wasn't security. She exhaled once, quietly. Mr. Callahan, you've had a stressful night. Let's take a moment. Where is my phone? I demanded. Her jaw tightened microscopically, just enough for me to notice. Before she could answer, a voice echoed down the hallway. Code Blue, room 217. Code Blue, room 217. Rebecca turned sharply. I need to go. She hurried from the room, leaving me alone with my unconscious daughter. I sat beside her bed, taking her hand again. Emily, I whispered. What did you get yourself into? Her fingers twitched faintly, as if she heard me somewhere deep inside whatever sedative pulled her under. Then, for the first time that night, I noticed something. Her phone, dead when she arrived, was sitting on the table beside the bed. But it was different now. It was turned on, and the screen, still dimly lit, showed a single notification. One outgoing call, placed at 3:01 a.m., to my number. But Emily hadn't been the one who called me. Someone else had. Someone who wanted me here. For several long seconds, I just stared at the glowing screen on Emily's phone, my own number displayed there like a quiet accusation. The time, 3:01 a.m., sat fixed beneath it. That was 4 minutes before the hospital called me. 4 minutes before the trembling voice whispered, Your daughter just asked for you. I looked toward the door to make sure no one was coming, then picked up the phone. The battery icon showed just 2% left, but it was enough to confirm the truth. I didn't want to face Emily hadn't made that call. Someone else had used her phone. Someone who knew my number. Someone who wanted me at this hospital. My pulse thudded in my ears. I set the phone back down and took a slow breath. I wanted to believe there was a rational explanation, maybe some nurse reaching for next of kin. But that didn't add up. The voice on the phone wasn't hospital staff. It was too soft, too hesitant, too personal. And Rebecca had never explained how she recognized me on sight. Everything I thought I understood about this night was slipping out from under me. Emily stirred slightly in the bed, her face tightening as if she felt something painful even in sleep. I brushed her hair from her forehead. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I meant it as a promise or a warning. The hallway outside remained eerily quiet. No running nurses, no chatter, no carts. Whatever Code Blue had been called for, it hadn't brought chaos to the floor the way it normally would. That alone felt strange. Too strange. I stepped to the doorway and looked out. The lights hummed softly overhead. Room 217, the one with the code blue, was at the far end. Its door was open, but I couldn't see inside from here, just a sliver of the floor and part of the bed frame. A shadow moved briefly across the gap. One figure, maybe two, but no voices, no urgency. An uneasy chill crept down my spine. I returned to Emily's bedside, but I didn't sit. I stood there thinking, trying to piece together what I knew. Something had brought her here. Something had frightened her enough to flee without her bag, wallet, or ID. And someone had made sure I came before dawn. Someone who used her phone to get me here. Someone who might have been watching us. The hooded man in the hallway. The missing phone. The man's voice in her room. No one would acknowledge if Nathan had returned to her life, and if he was half the man I remembered him to be. I couldn't shake the fear that he might be here too. I stepped over to the phone on the wall near the sink and picked it up. I dialed the operator. "Yes, how may I help you?" a woman answered. Calm and professional. "Can you connect me to hospital security?" I asked. A pause. "Is there an emergency? I just need to speak to them," I said. "About a possible intruder." Another pause, longer this time. One moment. But instead of ringing or a transfer click, I heard something else, a faint static hum, like the line had been muted. Then the operator came back. "Security is occupied at the moment, sir. They will come to you when available." "That's not acceptable," I said. Thank you for your patience," she said. And the line went dead. I slammed the phone back onto the cradle harder than I meant to. It rang out sharply in the quiet room, echoing against the walls. Emily didn't stir. Whatever sedative Rebecca had given her was strong, too strong. I stepped back to her bedside and looked at her. Really looked at her. The bruises on her arm. The faint mark along her wrist that looked like it could have been from a tight grip. A small scratch near her collarbone. She hadn't fallen. She hadn't simply overworked herself. Someone had hurt her. Someone had brought her to the point where she ran into the night with nothing but her dying phone and fear enough to ask for me by name. A faint creak sounded behind me. I spun around. The man from the hallway was standing in the doorway. No hood now. His face was half shadowed by the threshold lighting, but his eyes, they were fixed on me, unmoving, watching. I took a step back, instinctively positioning myself between him and Emily. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice sharp. He didn't answer at first. He stepped inside the room, closing the door softly behind him. His movements were quiet, controlled, not rushed, not panicked, like he expected to be here. "I've been looking for you," he finally said. Every muscle in my body tightened. "Who are you?" He exhaled slowly. "I'm not your enemy." That doesn't answer the question. He stepped closer, raising his hand slightly, as if to show he wasn't a threat. "My name is Daniel." It didn't ring a bell. "I don't know you." "No," he said. "But I know your daughter." My breath caught. "How?" "She reached out to me 2 weeks ago." I shook my head. "No. She would have told me." "You think she tells you everything?" His voice softened. Not unkind, but painfully honest. "What do you want?" I asked. "To keep her safe." "Safe from who?" He looked at Emily, a flicker of sadness passing over his expression. "From the same man she told you about. Nathan." My heart thudded painfully. "Where is he?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Close." I took a step closer to him, anger rising like heat under my skin. "If you're involved in this?" "I'm not," he said sharply. "I'm trying to stop him. I've been trying for weeks." "Why?" I demanded. He hesitated, then glanced toward the door as if expecting someone to walk in at any moment. When he spoke, his voice dropped lower. "Because Nathan isn't acting alone." A wave of cold washed over me. "What does that mean?" Daniel stepped closer to me, lowering his voice even further. "Your daughter didn't come here by accident. She was brought here. I stared at him. Brought here by who? He opened his mouth to answer, but the door handle began to turn from the outside. He immediately stepped back into the shadow beside the cabinet, motioning frantically for me not to react. The door opened slowly, and Rebecca walked in. But she wasn't smiling this time. She wasn't calm. Her expression was cold, focused, determined. Behind her, 2 security guards. "Mr. Callahan," she said, her voice devoid of the warmth it once held, "you need to come with us." I glanced toward the shadows where Daniel hid. He was gone, not out the door, not past me. Gone, somehow, without a sound. "Come with us, sir," Rebecca repeated. "What for?" I asked, forcing my voice steady. "There's been a complaint," she said. "A serious one." The 2 guards stepped forward. Emily lay sleeping behind me, unaware of what was unfolding. And all I could think was whatever was happening here had nothing to do with lost phones or mistaken identities. Someone wanted me removed from this room. Someone who didn't want me to hear what Daniel was about to say. Someone who wasn't done with Emily yet. I took one last look at my daughter. Then I said, "What complaint?" Rebecca's lips curved into the faintest, coldest smile. "Someone reported," she said softly, "that you're not her father." For a moment I just stared at Rebecca, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "Not her father," I repeated, the words tasting foreign in my mouth. "What kind of accusation is that?" Rebecca didn't blink. "A serious one," she said. "Enough for us to remove you until we verify your identity and your relationship to the patient." "That's ridiculous," I said, stepping back toward Emily. "My name is on her birth certificate. She called for me." "She didn't call you," Rebecca interrupted, her voice firm. "We did. But that wasn't true. I had proof of it. Emily's phone, the outgoing call at 3:01 a.m., the number on the screen. But showing them the phone meant handing it over, and something in Rebecca's eyes told me that would be a mistake. The 2 security guards stepped forward together, as if rehearsed. They weren't loud or aggressive, but their presence filled the room. One was tall and square-shouldered, late 40s maybe. The other was younger, maybe 25, but his hand hovered just a little too close to the baton on his belt. "This can go 2 ways," the older guard said. "You can step out with us and answer a few questions, or what?" I snapped. "You'll drag me out of my daughter's room?" "Sir," Rebecca said gently, as if calming a frightened child, "let's not escalate. We only need you to come with us for a few minutes." Behind me, Emily shifted in her sleep. The sedative held her under, oblivious to everything happening around her. She looked so small in that bed, so fragile. And these people, Rebecca, the guards, whoever else was involved, wanted me away from her. My instincts screamed at me not to leave her alone. "What complaint?" I asked. Again. "Who filed it? Who said I wasn't her father?" Rebecca didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, she stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You need to come with us now, Mr. Callahan." Her tone was different this time. Not professional. Not soothing. Something else. Something that made my skin crawl. The younger guard reached for my arm, and in that second, a voice rang through the room. "Don't touch him." We all froze. It came from the hallway. A familiar voice. Steady. Firm. Daniel. He stepped into the doorway, no longer hiding. His posture was calm, almost relaxed, but there was a sharpness in his eyes. A warning. The guards turned toward him, and Rebecca stiffened instantly. "This doesn't concern you," she said. "It concerns me," Daniel replied, "because he's not going anywhere." The older guard stepped forward. "Sir, this is a private medical matter. If you're not family, I'm more involved in this than any of you," Daniel said. The guard frowned. "And who exactly are you?" Daniel reached into his pocket, slowly, carefully, and produced a thin leather wallet. He flipped it open. There was a badge. "A real one, Special Agent Daniel Harper," he said quietly. Department of Homeland Security. Rebecca's face drained of color. The two guards hesitated, their confidence faltering, their stance loosening. I stared at Daniel. Homeland Security. He didn't take his eyes off the guards. You're not removing him from this room. Not tonight. The younger guard shifted uncomfortably. We were just following protocol. No, Daniel said. You were following someone's orders, and I want to know whose. Rebecca stepped forward, trying to reclaim authority. Agent Harper, you've been interfering with a federal investigation, Daniel said. Rebecca stopped talking. Her breath caught, just for a moment. Then she tried to compose herself. I'm not aware of any investigation. You are, Daniel said. Whether you admit it or not. The room went silent. I moved closer to Daniel. What is going on? What is going on? Is Homeland Security involved in my daughter's life? Daniel looked at me, and for the first time I saw something behind his eyes. Fatigue, strain, the look of a man who'd been carrying too much for too long. We can't talk here, he said. Not with them. He motioned toward the guards, and Rebecca. The older guard shifted. Agent Harper. We didn't know. You're going to step out, Daniel said. All three of you. Now, Rebecca didn't move at first. Her eyes darted to Emily, then to Daniel, then to me. There was something behind her expression, a calculation. She wasn't afraid of Daniel. She wasn't afraid of losing her job. She was afraid of something else entirely. Finally, she nodded. Guards, she said softly. Let's step out. The guards backed out slowly, one glancing between Daniel and me, as though trying to puzzle out what they'd walked into. Rebecca was the last to leave. Before she closed the door, she looked at me one more time, her eyes narrowing. We'll continue this conversation later, Mr. Callahan. When the door shut, Daniel turned the lock. Then he turned to me. Start talking, I said. Now, why are you here? Why were you hiding? And what does any of this have to do with my daughter? Daniel rubbed a hand over his face, as if deciding where to begin. She contacted me 2 weeks ago, he said. She said she was scared, that someone was threatening her, that someone wanted information she had. What information? Daniel hesitated. Data about someone she knew, someone dangerous. Nathan? He nodded once. Nathan isn't who you think he is. My chest tightened. What does that mean? Daniel took a breath. Nathan Wolfe is under federal investigation. He's connected to a trafficking network we've been trying to bring down for months. He's not a small player. He's at the center of it. And your daughter apparently discovered something he didn't want her to know. I felt the room tilt slightly, like the ground underneath me had shifted. And Rebecca? I asked. The staff here? Daniel lowered his voice. There are people inside this hospital who aren't working for the hospital. My stomach dropped. Working for who? I whispered. Him, Daniel said. Nathan. A cold, electric stillness filled the room. Daniel stepped closer, speaking in a low, urgent tone. Your daughter wasn't just running from an abusive ex. She was running from a criminal operation, and they tracked her here. I felt a surge of panic rise in my chest. Why would they bring her to a hospital? They didn't, Daniel said. She came here on her own. She tried to get help. But someone watching her alerted them the moment she arrived. And they want me gone, I said. Daniel nodded. They want you out of the way, because you're the only person she trusts. The only person she would talk to, and they need her quiet. I felt my breath catch. Quiet how? I asked. Daniel looked at me, his voice barely above a whisper. Any way they can. Silence settled between us. Heavy, crushing. I stepped toward Emily's bed, gripping the rail. What do we do? I whispered. Daniel placed a hand on my shoulder, steady but firm. First, he said, we get you both out of this hospital. Before I could respond, the intercom crackled to life overhead. A slow, measured voice echoed through the room. Attention all staff, code silver. All security to the east wing. Daniel's face went pale. That's this wing, he said. Then the lights flickered, footsteps thundered in the hallway, and someone tried the door handle. The door rattled under the force of the handle, and my heart nearly stopped. Daniel immediately moved in front of me, and Emily, his stance solid, protective. I could feel the weight of the moment, the silence broken only by the pounding of my own pulse. Whoever was outside wasn't going to leave quietly. They weren't here for questions. They were here to take control, and likely to hurt anyone who stood in their way. Stay low, Daniel whispered. His voice was calm but urgent. Don't make a sound. Whoever's out there, they know we're here. I pressed myself closer to the bed, glancing at Emily. She was still unconscious, her pale face a fragile mask of sleep. I wanted to wake her, to tell her I was there. But Daniel's sharp shake of the head stopped me. Not yet. If they see you awake, they'll know she's not alone. The door handle rattled again, harder this time, and a muffled voice called out, "Room 214. Step aside. Open up now." Daniel's eyes met mine. They know your daughter is here. Whoever is doing this knows everything. They've been watching her for weeks. They aren't taking any chances. The younger guard from earlier appeared at the corner of the hallway, moving cautiously. But he was alone. "Sir," I started. But Daniel's glance silenced me. He wasn't part of this, not anymore. Another pounding at the door, and then a new sound, a metallic click. My stomach turned. Someone had a key. Someone had access. Daniel swore softly under his breath, and reached for something tucked beneath his jacket. I couldn't see what it was, but it was small, deliberate, and clearly meant to give him an advantage. "They're going to try to bluff us," he murmured. "Don't react. Wait for my cue." The handle twisted again. "Open the door, Callahan." A harsh male voice demanded. "We know you're in there. We've got security outside, too." "Security?" I whispered. "They're not supposed to be." "They've been compromised," Daniel interrupted. "Some of them at least. Nathan's men have eyes everywhere. This hospital isn't safe." I felt my hands clench around the bed rail. "So what do we do?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He crouched slightly, motioning me down beside him. "We wait for a clear opening. They can't hurt her if we're prepared. But once they're in, you have to trust me completely." No hesitation. Another heavy pull on the door, and this time I heard it give slightly. A creak of the hinges under force. My pulse spiked, and I wanted to shout, to scream, to grab Emily and run. But I didn't. Daniel raised a hand, then lowered it slowly. Now the door burst open, in a controlled push, revealing two figures. One was tall, broad, and masked, the other shorter. Moving with surprising speed. They hesitated when they saw Daniel's stance, the way he moved as if ready for a fight he had already planned. "Agent Harper," the tall one said, voice slightly distorted through the mask. "Step aside. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me entirely," Daniel said, his hand flashing with the small device he had drawn. I saw a faint glint as he pressed a button. Something clicked, and the masked figures froze mid-step. "What did you—" I started, but Daniel held up a finger. "They're immobilized temporarily." "Non-lethal," he whispered. "I've been carrying this just in case Nathan's men show up tonight." My breath hitched. "You were ready for this?" He gave a small nod, eyes scanning the hallway for more threats. "I didn't know when they'd strike, but I knew they would." The figures struggled, but the device kept them pinned. One of them reached for something under his jacket, but Daniel's second press of the button made him stagger. Forced back, unable to act, I swallowed. Panic and relief warring inside me. "We need to get her out," I said. "Now," Daniel nodded and moved toward Emily's bed. "Lift her carefully," he instructed. "She's sedated. But if you drop her—" His voice trailed off unspoken. But I understood. I lifted her, careful to keep her steady against my chest. She was lighter than I expected, but her unconscious weight felt heavier than any burden I'd carried before. "Follow me," Daniel said, moving toward the window at the far end of the room. "We're leaving through the service corridor. Less traffic, fewer eyes." I glanced back at the immobilized intruders. "And them, they'll wake eventually," he said. "By the time they do, we'll be gone. And Nathan? He won't see us coming." We moved quickly down the dim hallway. Every step echoed too loudly in my ears. I kept Emily close, whispering to her, even though I wasn't sure she could hear me. "It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you. I'm not letting anyone hurt you." Daniel led us through a maze of service corridors I didn't know existed. The walls were narrow, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Occasionally, he glanced back, checking for shadows, checking for movement. I realized how blind I had been to the danger Emily was in, how naive I'd been thinking. The hospital was a safe place. How little I knew about the threats that had followed her into my life without my knowledge. We reached a stairwell leading down to the basement. Daniel paused. "We're going to encounter a door at the bottom," he said. "It's locked, but I have the override." I tightened my grip on Emily. "Can she wake up?" "Not if you're careful," he said. "But if she does, stay calm. Speak gently. She needs to trust you." We descended quietly, one step at a time. My heart thumped like a drum, each beat a warning, each beat a countdown. At the bottom, Daniel pressed a small card against the electronic lock. There was a soft beep, a click, and the door swung open. Beyond was a service exit, leading to a shadowed alley behind the hospital. The cold night air hit us like a wall. Relief and fear collided in my chest. We were outside for now. Daniel gestured for me to follow. "We move fast, we don't stop until she's safe. Do you understand?" I nodded, cradling Emily closer. "I understand." The alley was empty, eerily quiet, except for the hum of distant traffic. The relief was brief. Somewhere, not far, there were eyes watching, waiting. Nathan hadn't gone anywhere. Daniel pulled a small blanket from his pack and wrapped Emily in it. "We're going to get a car. My vehicle. Private. No cameras, no attention." I wanted to ask questions, demanded answers, but every instinct told me Daniel was right. Speed mattered more than explanations. As we moved toward the street, I felt the weight of the night pressing down. Every step was a reminder. My daughter's life had been in danger long before that 3:01 a.m. call, and whatever waited for us tonight, it wasn't finished. We reached the curb. Daniel's car was black, unmarked. The doors swung open silently. "Get her in," he said. As I settled Emily into the back seat, I felt the faintest tug of panic. Her chest rose and fell slowly. For now she was alive, safe. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Daniel slid into the driver's seat. The engine was silent but powerful. "Hold on," he said. "Nathan won't let this go quietly, and neither will the people he's working with." I took a deep breath, cradling Emily, staring at the night outside, and somewhere in the darkness, I knew Nathan was already planning his next move. We were on the run, and there was no turning back. The car moved through the empty streets, like a shadow. Daniel drove with careful precision, hugging the dark edges of the road, taking turns before the intersections, glancing at side streets as if expecting someone to appear from nowhere. I held Emily close, her small body trembling slightly even under the blanket. Her eyes fluttered open once, disoriented, then closed again. The sedative was still heavy in her system, but I whispered her name softly anyway. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm right here. Nothing's going to happen to you." Daniel's voice cut through the low hum of the engine. "You need to understand, Mr. Callahan. Nathan is ruthless. He's been tracking her for months, probably longer. Any sign she tried to reach out, like that call he didn't make himself, would have triggered a response immediately." I swallowed hard. How did she end up in that hospital? Why not somewhere safer? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because Nathan wants her visible, even in the shadows. The hospital wasn't about medical care. It was about control. He needed to make her think she was safe, just long enough to isolate her. And when we arrived, that's when he tested our response. I felt bile rise in my throat. Tested our response? Yes, he said. The men at the hospital. The guards, Rebecca. They weren't just following protocol. They were his eyes. His enforcers. Everything was designed to delay, confuse, and separate us. I pressed Emily's hand to my cheek. I can't believe she went through this alone. Daniel shook his head. She shouldn't have. But Nathan underestimated one thing. You was the one person she trusts completely. That's why they acted when she called for you. That's why you were targeted first. I wanted to ask more, to demand names, locations, plans, but Daniel didn't give me the chance. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. We're not alone, he said. I froze. What do you mean? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowed the car slightly, hugging the shadows along the side of the road. In the distance, I saw headlights, small and fast, weaving through the streets, keeping pace with us. They weren't close yet, but they were moving like predators. Those aren't cops, Daniel said quietly. Those are his men. My chest tightened. How many? Too many to count, and too dangerous to engage. We move carefully. We move fast. We stay quiet. They can't see us, but they know where we are. I hugged Emily tighter. Her small hand twitched in mine, half conscious, half dreaming. I wanted to reassure her, but the words felt useless. How could I explain a shadowy presence, a man who had already hurt her, and the unknown number of enemies pursuing us? Daniel broke the silence. We're heading to a safe house. It's off-grid, no cameras, no location tracking. She'll be secure there, for now. I swallowed, trying to steady my shaking hands. How long until we get there? Depends on the streets, he said. Depends on whether they spot us. Worst case, we take back roads through the industrial district. Few lights, fewer witnesses. We drove in tense silence, broken only by the occasional quiet instructions from Daniel. Slow here, keep low. Don't respond to anything outside the car. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a terrifying thought formed. What if Emily woke fully? What if Nathan's men intercepted us mid-drive? I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. Dad, Emily whispered faintly, her voice raw, almost a ghost of itself. I leaned closer. I'm right here, baby. Nothing's going to happen to you. Her eyes opened fully this time, but they were glazed with confusion and fear. Why? Why am I in a car? You're safe, I said. I promise. You're safe with me. Daniel's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror again. Don't make sudden movements, he said quietly. They're watching every signal. Emily shivered slightly. Dad, Nathan, I tensed. He won't touch you, not if I can help it. You think he cares about rules? She whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The city lights gave way to darker, more industrial roads. The hum of the tires against asphalt, and the faint engine noise were all that marked our movement. Daniel glanced at me. This next section is critical. If we make it through this unobserved, we might actually shake them. I swallowed hard. And if we don't, Daniel didn't flinch. Then we improvise. We fight. But for now, quiet and careful. A shadow moved across the rear window. I froze. A flash of movement. I swore I saw a figure ducking, then vanish behind a wall. They're close, Daniel muttered. I can see one, two maybe, not confirmed. My pulse spiked. We're running out of options. Daniel shook his head. Options are a luxury we don't have. We stick to the plan, safe house. Quick, clean, no mistakes. Emily stirred again, weakly reaching for my hand. Dad, I'm scared. I know, sweetheart. I whispered. I know. I'm here. I've got you. I'll never let them take you. Daniel glanced at us both, his expression unreadable, but I could see the tension in his jaw. We're almost there. One more turn, then the alley. After that, we can breathe. For a moment, my hands tightened around Emily. I could feel her pulse under my fingers. Fast, panicked, fragile. I felt mine matching it, unsteady, but determined. Then, just as Daniel warned, the industrial alley appeared, dark, narrow, with the high walls of old warehouses closing in. I saw our path, a small break in the perimeter fencing. Hold her close, Daniel said. Step lightly. Move fast. I'll cover behind. I nodded. I tightened my hold on Emily and followed Daniel into the shadows, every step precise, every breath controlled. The headlights from Nathan's men faded slightly behind us, but I knew it wasn't over. As we reached the far corner of the alley, Daniel paused. Inside here, he whispered. Safe house. But it's not over. Nathan knows. He'll be looking for us. I took a deep breath and opened the door to the safe house. Warm light spilled inside. Emily stirred slightly but didn't wake. For the first time tonight, a small wave of relief hit me. But as Daniel closed the door behind us, he looked at me gravely. He's coming. And next time, he won't hesitate. I tightened my grip on Emily again. Then we'll be ready. Outside, the night stretched silently. Shadows shifted. Somewhere Nathan was planning. And we were no longer just running. We were preparing for the fight that would come with the sunrise. The safe house was small, unassuming, tucked behind a row of abandoned warehouses. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than a boarded-up storage shed. Inside, the dim light cast long shadows on the walls, and the faint hum of an old heater did little to calm my racing heart. Daniel led us to a small couch in the corner, gesturing for me to set Emily down. Her breathing was shallow, still drugged from the sedative, but at least she was quiet. We have only a few hours before Nathan realizes we're gone, Daniel said, his voice low, urgent. He knows the hospital. He knows the streets we traveled. He's resourceful, patient, and dangerous. He won't stop until he's certain she's either back under his control or out of reach. I sank into the chair beside Emily, cradling her head gently. And Rebecca? Those guards? They were part of this? Daniel rubbed his temple. Yes, some of the staff were compromised. They weren't all malicious, but they were being manipulated. Nathan has influence in unexpected places. He's not just an individual problem, he's a network. I swallowed hard, my hands shaking slightly. Then, how do we fight something like that? Daniel's eyes met mine, grim. We don't, not yet. Tonight, we survive. Tomorrow we fight strategically. If Nathan gets reckless before then, he loses control. That's our advantage. I glanced at Emily again, her small chest rising and falling steadily. I felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. I can't believe she went through all this alone, and I didn't even know. You didn't know because Nathan planned it that way, Daniel said. He isolates his targets, creates fear, and watches their reactions. That's how he stayed ahead for months. I ran a hand through my hair, desperate. I need to know why she called for me, why that 3:01 a.m. call was so important. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice further. Because she trusted you. In that moment you were her anchor, and she knew somehow that if you were there, she had a chance to survive. I felt a lump in my throat. Then I can't fail her. I won't. A soft thump echoed from the far side of the room. I froze. Daniel's hand went to his holster instinctively. Emily stirred but didn't wake. Stay here, Daniel whispered, quietly. He moved toward the source of the noise, careful and deliberate. I could see his silhouette tense as he peered around a corner, then returned silently to the couch. They know we're here, he said. Nathan is moving. He always keeps a step ahead, but he's impatient. He'll make a direct move soon. Could be within minutes. I tightened my grip on Emily. So what do we do until then? Wait, Daniel said simply. Observe, plan, protect her. That's all we can do until we know exactly what he's attempting. Minutes stretched like hours. Every small sound, creaking floorboards, distant traffic, the faint hum of the heater, made my heart jump. I watched Emily's face, her lips twitching, as if she was dreaming of the terror she had endured. My mind raced with possibilities. How much did she know about Nathan? How much had she seen, and had she told anyone else? Daniel returned from checking the perimeter silently. We need to talk about what happens if he finds us here. He won't come alone. He'll have at least 3 people. He's strategic. He won't risk losing his leverage. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. And if he comes, Daniel's eyes darkened. Then we make sure he doesn't leave with Emily. At any cost, we stop him. A sudden noise outside, a muffled crunch of gravel, made my blood run cold. Daniel froze, listening. "Shh," he whispered. "They're here." I felt Emily stir again. Her small hand reached for mine. I gripped it tightly. "It's okay, baby. I'm right here." From the shadows outside, a silhouette moved past the small window, slow, calculated. Whoever it was, they weren't rushing. They were assessing, testing, waiting for a weakness. Daniel stepped in front of me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Remember, quiet. Let me handle the first move. Stay behind me." The figure pressed against the door handle, tugged lightly, and then paused. A faint voice called from outside. "Emily Callahan. We know you're in there. Come out quietly. And no one gets hurt." My chest tightened. That voice, it was him. Nathan. I felt a surge of fury, fear, and helplessness collide in my chest. He wasn't just anyone. He was the man who had terrorized my daughter, manipulated the hospital, and orchestrated everything that had brought us to this moment. Daniel's grip on my shoulder was firm. "Stay calm. Do exactly as I say." I nodded. Heart pounding, the weight of responsibility pressing down. Emily's small hand in mine was warm but fragile, and I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about protecting her from Nathan's network anymore. This was about surviving the man himself, and Nathan wouldn't stop. Not until he had what he wanted. I swallowed hard and whispered to Emily, even though she was barely conscious, "Daddy's here. I won't let him take you." Daniel adjusted the blinds, peeking through a small gap. His eyes narrowed. "He's alone for now, but he's testing the waters. One wrong move, and we could be trapped." I swallowed, every instinct screaming at me to act, to run, to fight. But Daniel's calm presence steadied me. For Emily, I had to be patient, calculated. For her life, I had to trust him. Outside, Nathan's shadow moved slowly, almost taunting along the wall. He was close enough to see the door, close enough to strike if we faltered. And I knew with every fiber of my being that the confrontation was about to begin. The shadow pressed against the door again, and my heart slammed against my chest. Nathan's presence was undeniable, calculated, cold, and precise. Every instinct in me screamed to act, but Daniel's hand on my shoulder held me still. "Not yet," he whispered. "Let him make the first mistake." Through the small gap in the blinds I saw Nathan's figure, tall and unyielding, moving like a predator sizing up its prey. His voice came, low, smooth, chilling. "Emily Callahan, I know you're in there. Step outside and we can end this quietly." I tightened my grip on Emily. Even drugged, she stirred, whispering my name. "Daddy?" "It's okay, baby." I whispered back, though. My hands trembled. "Daddy's right here. Nothing's going to happen." Daniel's eyes scanned every angle. "He's testing us," he muttered, watching for any sign of weakness. Nathan rapped sharply on the door, with the butt of a metal object, The sound reverberated through the small house. I'm serious. One step outside, and no one survives this. I wanted to yell, to tell him off, but Daniel shook his head. Quiet, he said. Let me handle it. Any movement from you or Emily and he'll act immediately. The seconds stretched into minutes. Nathan's voice continued, calm, menacing, the kind of tone that made every hair on your neck rise. You can't hide forever. I know every place she goes. Every street, every alley. Come out, now. I could feel Emily stirring more, her small hands clutching mine, her fingers trembling. Daddy, what's happening? She whispered. You're safe, I said, swallowing hard. I promise, baby, you're safe. Daniel shifted, pulling a small device from his pocket. This will buy us a few seconds. If he tries to force the door, he said, pressing a button. A faint hum buzzed through the air vents. Outside, I saw Nathan pause, head tilting slightly, puzzled, looking for me. Daniel said quietly, almost to himself. Nathan's shadow moved faster now, circling the perimeter. I know you're in there. He hissed. You can't hide from me. You won't escape. My pulse pounded in my ears. Daniel leaned close. When he makes his move, don't hesitate. Follow my instructions exactly. I nodded, swallowing down fear that clawed at my throat. Emily stirred again, and I whispered, I've got you, sweetheart. I'll never let him hurt you. A sudden metallic scrape outside made us both freeze. Nathan was testing the locks. Daniel pressed another button on his device, and a faint electric buzz made the doorknob shudder. Nathan cursed under his breath. They're strong, he muttered. Too strong, how? Daniel stepped closer to me, voice low, urgent. This is it. When he tries the door again, you're moving. Don't wait. Move with me. Keep her close, and whatever you do, don't look back. I pressed Emily against my chest, feeling her fragile weight, knowing the seconds we had would decide everything. The doorknob rattled again, harder this time, and the hinges groaned. Nathan's voice came, louder, more threatening. I know you're hiding. Come out, and no one gets hurt. Daniel nodded once. Now, he moved like lightning to the corner, kicking the door open just as Nathan tried to force it. The shock from the small device Daniel carried hit Nathan in the chest. He staggered back, swearing, clutching his side, but recovered quickly, rage flaring in his eyes. I bolted, cradling Emily tightly. Daniel followed, covering us as we darted through the back exit of the safe house, the night air cold and biting against our skin. Nathan swore again, furious, but the device gave us a crucial advantage. We ran down the alley, keeping low, every step precise, every breath calculated. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but Emily's safety was all that mattered. Daniel led us through a maze of dark streets and back alleys, constantly checking behind us. He's close, he warned. But the device slowed him, just enough to get a little distance. We paused behind a dumpster, catching our breath. Emily stirred slightly, her voice weak. Daddy, are they gone? Not yet, baby, I whispered, holding her tighter. But we're together. That's what matters. Daniel peeked around the corner. He's regrouping. He's not giving up. Nathan never does. But we've bought a few more minutes. That's all we need to get her somewhere truly safe. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. And after that, Daniel's eyes met mine. Steady but grim. Then we fight back. Nathan won't stop, but we have to be ready. Emily's small hand found mine, holding on with surprising strength. I whispered again, I'm here, baby. I'll never let him take you. Outside, the darkness seemed alive. Shadows stretched along the alley walls. Somewhere Nathan was planning his next move, and we were running out of time. I looked at Daniel. What's next? He adjusted his grip on the device in his hand. Next, we disappear. Completely. Until we can turn the tables. I nodded, tightening my hold on Emily. Then let's move. And with that, we slipped into the shadows, hearts racing, hunted but not yet caught, knowing that Nathan's next strike would come faster and harder than ever before. The night pressed in around us as Daniel led Emily and me through the maze of back streets. Every shadow, every distant sound felt like it carried Nathan's presence. I could feel the weight of the past hours pressing on me, the fear, the uncertainty, the anger at what my daughter had endured alone. Emily stirred slightly in my arms, her small hand clinging to mine. "Daddy, are we safe?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the city. Daniel glanced back, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the darkness. Safe is a relative term tonight. His, ruthless. But we have an advantage. He doesn't know exactly where we are. I nodded, swallowing hard. Then we stay ahead of him. We keep moving. We slipped into a narrow alley, the faint light of a street lamp illuminating a single, black, unmarked van parked near a brick wall. Daniel gestured for us to get inside. "This vehicle is off-grid. No GPS. No tracking. Once we're inside, we'll have a few uninterrupted hours. That's all the head start we need." I carefully lifted Emily into the back seat, cradling her so she wouldn't wake fully. Daniel slid in beside me, shutting the doors and locking them. The engine hummed to life, quiet, controlled. Outside, the streets were still. But I knew Nathan was out there, hunting, calculating, waiting for any misstep. Daniel kept his voice low. "Tonight, we're not just escaping, we're preparing. Nathan thinks he has control. That's why he's reckless. His next move will be impulsive, and that's when we act." I glanced at Emily, her face pale but peaceful, under the blanket. "How long before he finds us?" I asked, the question bitter in my mouth. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He kept his eyes on the road, scanning every corner, every shadow. "Soon. But that's fine. We're ready for him now. And we'll be ready again. You've been too protective, and that's what keeps her alive. But we have to be strategic, not reactive." My mind raced. Nathan's been controlling everything. Hospital staff, the guards, even Rebecca. How deep does this go? Daniel's expression hardened, deep enough to understand he doesn't care who he manipulates to get what he wants. He's dangerous because he's patient, and he's always thinking 3 steps ahead. I tightened my grip on Emily. "Then we have to be smarter, faster, stronger." Daniel nodded. "Exactly. But first, she needs rest. Then we plan every detail, every route, every possible scenario. We can't leave anything to chance. Nathan won't forgive mistakes." The van rolled silently through the night, the city giving way to quieter roads. For the first time, I allowed myself a small moment of relief. Emily was safe for now. I held her hand, feeling the tiny pulse, the fragile life in my arms. Minutes passed. Years felt like minutes. Then Daniel spoke again, voice low but firm. "We're close. Safe house is secure, fortified, and hidden. She'll be protected there until we finalize the plan to confront Nathan directly. This is where we regroup, and where he doesn't get a say." I swallowed hard, a mix of fear and determination rising in me. And after that, Daniel's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, unwavering. "After that, we end this. Nathan's control ends with us, and your daughter will finally be safe. Not just tonight, but forever." I held Emily closer. "I won't let him touch her. I won't let him hurt her again. Not ever." Daniel's hand rested briefly on my shoulder. "You've already proven that. That's why she's alive. That's why we're still here. But now, it's time to finish this. Tonight, he meets the consequences of his choices." I looked out the window at the shadows passing by. Somewhere, Nathan was out there, tracking, waiting, unaware that his plans were unraveling. Every move he made had been calculated, but we had learned, observed, and survived. The van turned into a secluded driveway. Trees lined the path, hiding the house from view. Daniel killed the engine. Silence filled the interior. Inside, he whispered, "This is it. She's safe for the moment. But stay alert. Nathan will test every possible way to get her back." I stepped out, carrying Emily, and looked at the small house. For the first time that night, I felt a glimmer of hope. This place, hidden and secure, was more than shelter. It was a chance to fight back. Daniel led us inside, barricading doors and checking the windows. Emily stirred slightly, eyes half open, sensing safety but still afraid. I knelt beside her, brushing hair from her forehead. "It's okay, baby. You're home now. You're safe, I promise," she whispered. "Daddy, I was so scared." "I know," I said softly. "But you're safe. I'm here, and I'll never let anything happen to you again." Daniel stepped back, surveying the room. "This is where we regroup, rest, and plan. Nathan will come for her again. He's relentless, but now we have the advantage. He doesn't know the full picture, and we're prepared." I looked down at Emily, her small hands still in mine, and I felt something powerful resolve. Fear had driven us until now, but determination would guide us forward. Nathan had underestimated us, underestimated the bond between father and daughter, underestimated the lengths we would go to protect each other. Outside, the night remained dark. Somewhere in the shadows, Nathan was watching, waiting, plotting his next move. But inside, in this small safe house, Emily was alive, and for the first time tonight, so was hope. I whispered again, holding her close. "No matter what comes next, I've got you. Always." Daniel nodded. "Tomorrow we confront him. Tonight, we prepare. And when Nathan makes his move, he won't know what hit him." The room was silent, except for the soft rhythm of Emily's breathing, and for the first time since that 3:01 a.m. call, I allowed myself to believe we might survive this. But I knew one thing with certainty. Nathan Wolfe would never give up, and neither would we.